Welcome into episode 22 of the Hoptown Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Wade Campbell, and as usual, I'm joined by TJ James and our guest this week, Austin Mason, aka the Mad Scientist. Fellas, how y'all doing?
Doing good.
We're doing great, Camby, but I'm doing a little less good this week than I was doing last week. Let's say that.
Is that because of your fantasy team or the Titans? Or both?
Everything, man.
Everything. So,
however, this is the league that we're talking about now was the one I lost, but going into that final Kirk Cousins drive, I was looking at 0-3 across all my leagues. That final drive put me at 2-1.
Yeah. Well, do you have Thielen in two leagues?
No, I had Kirk Cousins in one, and it's that points per completion league.
I got you. Oh, yeah, okay. I got you.
And he had like 8 completions in the last drive.
Gotcha. So, well, we got the usual stuff on the agenda today, power rankings matchup. Had some trades go on since last week. We're going to start off with some NFL news. I guess first bit of news that we're going to talk about is the Trey Lance injury. So Trey Lance, everybody's QB, some people's QB darlings, others skeptical of him, injured his ankle Sunday in the 49ers game against the Seahawks. Wasn't a compound fracture or anything like that. They had successful surgery. They expect him to be back for 2023 and be fine, have a complete recovery. So I guess the obvious question here is, what does that mean for the 49ers offense? Good, bad, the same as it was? TJ, what do you think?
I think it raises the floor of the offense, but we know what the Niners are with Jimmy G. We know what Jimmy G is. I think he's in mid-tier quarterback, mid to low tier, but he's a good game manager. He knows how to win, but obviously the Niners feel like they're missing a certain component to compete with some of the Bills, Chiefs, Chargers types of teams. It's a shame to see Trey Lance go down. I'd like to see him experiment in that offense more. Maybe the offense, there's a chance Trey Lance could have been really bad and this makes the offense better, but I think we just know what it's going to look like. We know they can be a really good team and they can compete. Are they a Super Bowl team with Jimmy G? I think what they were going for with Lance was trying to be a Super Bowl team. So,
yeah, no, for sure. And of course, there's always a kind of a safe feeling when you know what to expect, and we know what to expect with Jimmy G and that offense, like you said. Austin, outside of Debo and Kittle, does this really affect anybody else with the offense? I guess Jeff Wilson with Elijah Mitchell on the IR. But is there any other 49ers offensive players that you would even consider starting?
I think in hindsight, it makes the Jeff Wilson waiver ads from last week look really good because you're going to have less vulture and like TDs and stuff like that. They're not going to draw as many plays for the QB around the goal line. So I think it might benefit them a little bit more, and it might, like with Trey Lance, I could see like both Kittle and Debo having big games, but now that it's back to Jimmy G, he doesn't use, like, a big game for him is like 3 touchdowns and they're going to spread the ball around. So it might actually make them a little bit more inconsistent where, one gets fed and the other one doesn't.
Okay. I definitely agree with the Vulcan point as far as, because Trey was going to definitely get some rushing touchdowns at the goal line, take away from the running backs. As far as how does this affect Trey's fantasy team, the team he was on? Well, he was on my team, and it doesn't really affect my team at all. I drafted Matthew Stafford, and had actually started Stafford earlier, or started him in week 2, and so he's going to be my QB moving forward. So it doesn't really affect him at all, or affect my team at all. So any other thoughts on this before we move on to the next piece of news?
No, I do think that It's exciting news for Collins, who's a Kittle manager. But
Yeah, I agree. And we'll talk about the Debo manager, but who's also the who is the Debo manager now. I think also very exciting for him.
yeah.
So next piece, of course, like I said, just briefly, I don't know if we said this on the last podcast, but Mitchell or Elijah Mitchell on the IR, I think we might have did, but I just want to put it in there in case we hadn't. I can remember that was before or after the podcast had happened. And so the next piece is Mike Evans suspended 1 game for a little fight with Marshawn Lattimore, which he has a history of with Lattimore of that happening. As far as the Buccaneers offense with Brady and Leonard, I mean, I don't think people, was going to start Brady anyways. But what does this mean for, I guess, like Fournette? I mean, I guess just more carries next week. I mean, does this really affect the offense any at all?
I think it does, definitely to a degree. Who are the Buccaneers playing next week again?
The Packers.
Yeah, the Packers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because, hopefully for their sake, at least Julio can get out there for some snaps. But
I was gonna say it looks like Brady's not gonna have Julio. Godwin looks like he's still gonna be out. Looking like I said, Evans already out, although he is appealing the suspension today.
yeah.
So we shall see
Well,
what happens. Or the news came out that he was going to appeal. So I guess I don't know when the hearing is. I guess tomorrow or Thursday.
yeah. I think it's one of those things, man, that you almost may want to just have to. You may not be able to because there's definitely guys that I'm always going to start Brady over, but you may want to try to steer away from Brady. I don't know which of those wide receivers could even step up to be guys you'd want to start. Maybe Russell Gage. If Julio goes, obviously, maybe you could find a way to get him in. But, I mean, really the only guy I'm confidently starting from that group is Lenny, who is going to get the ball a lot. His snap share was crazy last week, even off of a week.
Yeah, he had like, 25 carries, 24, something like that.
Yeah, and he was out there for like 84% of the snaps or something around that number. So Lenny's looking like a great pick. And that's with him being hampered by a little bit of a hamstring injury that he had throughout the week. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's unfortunate for Mike Evans owners. You hate to lose a game, especially when he was primed to be the focal. Like the thing is one of the things that was alluring about Mike Evans was that he was going to have a few weeks where it seemed like he was just going to be the guy before. Once that wide receiver field gets healthy, I think Mike Evans is still the guy more so than not, but you hate to lose a week where Mike Evans is for sure going to be like, that's where Brady's looking. And that seems to be what's happening.
Yeah. Austin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it only really impacts Fournette. I think he's setting up to where he's going to get a really, really high usage game because he's really the only talent that they're going to have out on the field other than Brady. And the last time we saw Brady without good receivers was like New England.
Yeah.
And he stunk that year. So I could see them relying a lot on Fournette if it's a competitive game.
I don't know if I'd say he stunk that year. I don't know if he's had a bad year really, but
well, for fantasy, he kind of stunk. For the receivers, at least.
The Packers have a good secondary too, which is
they do have a good secondary.
If Brady was playing a suboptimal secondary, I would still be like Brady's fine. And
Brady's had a. I mean, we can talk about this more in depth when we get to talking about the matchups. But he's had a slow start to the year.
I think there's definitely a lot of people that didn't play in the preseason or didn't maybe get as many reps up that they're just kind of slowly. Brady's doing it and just like he's like not making mistakes. They're doing what they need right now. Like they just haven't had to turn up the knob yet. And I think he's still getting his mind to it.
Yeah, which the defense is really good and everything.
Yeah. So
So all right, let's get into some trade talk. So we had 2 trades that have happened since our last podcast. Both of them it involved the same people, both trades, Sam and Jaxs. Sam has now been involved 3 of the 4 trades. So has the trade itch. So we'll just talk about the first trade that happened last week. Sam traded Elijah Moore, Elijah Moore for
James Robinson.
James Robinson. Yeah, sorry, I'm scatterbrained right now. He traded Elijah Moore for James Robinson. I thought that was. Sam, I guess, is looking like he definitely has won. It's still early. Just say these trades are still early, but it's definitely like Sam has won that with getting a solid RB2, possibly more. What y'all thinking?
Austin, you can go first.
So are we talking about the Robinson trade or first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought that one was pretty sensible for both teams, and I don't really like Elijah Moore with the Jets offense, but I think it was just I could also see James Robinson losing out on a little bit of his role still.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. TJJ, you can go on.
Yeah, it definitely is looking good for Sam right now. However, I think that, and not even just that James Robinson had a good week, it's that Garrett Wilson now is looking like he's just already stepping into that wide receiver 1 role. Which that sucks a little bit for Jaxs for sure. However, it's just one of those things that I think time will tell. Also, we got to take into consideration that this is Joe Flacco, and at some point, Zach Wilson's going to come in there. Zach Wilson had pretty good rapport with Elijah Moore last year, so I think that's one thing people forget is different quarterbacks have different relationships with different people, feel more comfortable throwing it to that, So I still think there's hope. I think Elijah Moore is a really good player. And then also with James Robinson, this was a good trade. I don't see any qualms on either side. It's favored Sam thus far. However, I think even long-term perspective, Jack still has a chance to be the guy that comes out on top, just because you never know how hard they're going to want to push for ETN to ultimately take over. Even though right now James Robinson has looked good, but we know how that goes. If ETN starts feeling comfortable and he starts making big plays, and I still don't think the Jaguars offensive line and offense in general is going to be super elite or anything of that nature. I think they've had some pretty good matchups to start the year. So when those matchups get more difficult, I don't know. It's an even trade. You just have to put some things in perspective. I'm ready to see what Elijah Moore and that offense is going to look like with Zach Wilson, and I'm ready to see do they keep the usage with Robinson as it is, or does ETN slowly come in?
Integrate or get more carries, all that.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I think those are all good points. So that trade was made before the week 2 game. So they both had those guys available for their week 2 matchups. And then today, Sam and Jax made another trade just hours ago. Sam traded Debo, Samuel, and David Montgomery and for C-Mac. So Sam got C-Mac and Jax now has Debo and David. So TJ, I saw you put the little poop emoji on the Sleeper app with their trade. Why did you do that?
Well, I didn't necessarily think it was a poop trade. I did. It's just tough to trade off C-Mac, and it's just 2 guys that, and C-Mac he had a good week last week. You'd be happy if C-Mac did that most weeks. But I think that C-Mac's only going to get better and better as long as he stays healthy. And they got to, their offense is so stagnant right now. So they're going to figure out ways to get the ball to their best players.
You would think.
You would think. However, Jaxs is getting back Debo, who was a beast last year. However, I just never trust anything with Shanahan. Like, I like Debo, and I think he actually has better receiving upside for sure with Jimmy G. But I honestly don't know if I like how much he's getting run at running back. Like, can he continue to average 8, 6, 7 yards a carry when he gets the ball? And can he continue to get touchdowns from the backfield at some point? Is that gimmick gonna, wear down a little bit per se in efficiency? But Debo has those weeks where he'll go for 30. So
yeah.
And David Montgomery, like I was more of a believer in David Montgomery than most before this season, and he looked really good last week. But that offense is so abysmal.
It is.
And they went away from him when he was cooking for like half a game when they were still in it, which really worries me. I don't think they have much of a clue offensively what's going on over there in Chicago. So
yeah,
I mean, he's an RB2 guy you can plug in there, and Jaxs is relying upon Chubb to be that RB1 and hopefully to be that PPR beast. I don't know. I like it for Sam though. I just like getting C-Mac.
Yeah. What about you, Austin? What do you think?
I definitely think. I mean, Jaxs needed a receiver really bad. With Keenan being out for a couple games, and I don't know, like Mike Williams is just gonna have those games where the ball's just going to him, like we saw the other night. I don't think like Keenan being there necessarily stops Mike Williams from getting a lot of like production the way that he was and like having touchdowns go his way. Apart from that, though, I mean, the upside, obviously, if every player in this trade performed to their maximum ability, I think Sam wins. Just because like we've seen what C-Mac has done, and I don't even know if I don't know if that coupled with Joe Mixon and the fact that Cortland Sutton might be the only receiver around for a little bit, I don't know. It's tough to say who won, really.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough to say. I mean, we haven't. I mean,
I think it makes Jax's team a little bit better, but I think the upside of Sam's team obviously just rises tremendously.
Yeah,
I mean, to me,
I don't know. Like,
I think it spreads Sam's team a little bit too thin with it, like having to rely on Sutton and Marquise Brown.
And that's my issue with the trade. Obviously, I mean, if you just look at it like in a vacuum, just them two, I think Sam probably would people would say Sam won it getting C-Mac. But if you look at each team as a whole, like I really like Jackson's team now, and Sam's receivers are. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on Sutton.
Okay, but let's say this though, like, all right, so there is a lot of pressure on Sutton, but Sutton has been good like thus far. Like, even the first game when he didn't even get looked at in the first half, he still put up 11, and he's a big guy, down the field guy, put up 20 with no touchdowns last week. So, I mean, Sutton can be the guy. I think Hollywood, you don't love it, but he's gonna get you double digits, it seems, just off volume in that offense.
But that's with Rondell Moore out, D-Hop's out. I mean, obviously he's going to be ahead of. Obviously he's going to be ahead.
I hope D-Hop comes back and eats because I've got him in another league that I'm holding on.
Well, Hollywood's obviously probably going to be above Rondell Moore, but Kingsbury really likes Rondell Moore.
Yeah, Sam's got Mixon and C-Mac now, and I think Sutton is good enough.
Yeah.
And
very good.
And Sam's got James Robinson in his flex right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a very good RB.
And we're also sleeping on the fact that he has Curtis Samuel, who might be really good.
Yeah.
That's a big X factor in this. Is Curtis Samuel might be crazy good.
Curtis Samuel has 20 targets through 2 games, and last week he played 89%. Scored touchdowns in both games.
Yeah.
If he stays healthy, I could see him. I mean, he's the most familiar receiver kind of that Rivera has because he's played
I guess with the
for
Panthers.
a while and like designed stuff around him for a while. So like you can tell that like they're just drawing up plays that are specifically going to Curtis Samuel.
Yeah. So I don't know. If I had to choose a side, I like Sam's end here. I like Sam's team a little better as a result of it, but I mean, that's just me thinking that Debo is not going to be what he was last year. If Debo is what he was last year, then and C-Mac is kind of what he is now, then Jaxs probably wins this trade. So we'll see.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We'll definitely see. We'll have an episode later this year where we look at the trades and
see how it goes.
See what happens. So,
yeah.
I do want to address the trade that people said with PU in the group message, which people don't know how to negotiate trades apparently nowadays. So I offered Sam Mike Evans for Sutton and David Montgomery. Was it the best offer I could put on the table? Probably not. But I put it out there. If he takes it, great. If not, counter offer, we'll get some negotiations going. But all I get was a PU. That's bad, brother.
Well, let's just say this. Let's just say this, though. All right. I am maybe not doing Sutton for Mike Evans straight up right now.
Wait, well, why? Just because of the suspension or because of the Bucs offense or?
A little bit of both. Everybody's coming back for the Bucs at some point. Julio looked good, and
but Julio looked good week 1, and Mike Evans still 8.
I mean, what he got a touchdown. I mean,
but
he went like what 5 for 70 and like a touchdown, which is fine. It's just not crazy.
Let's look right here. Let's see, 5 for 71 is a touchdown on 7 targets.
So, Sutton hasn't had a touchdown yet and has put up,
That's true. I was also just we know what Mike Evans is.
But regardless, I think sometimes when you're trying to negotiate, you got to at least start a little bit closer than that.
Maybe so.
Some people might find it offensive. Sorry,
then that's their fault if they find it offensive. That was the trade. Is what it is. I'm not going to say I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not like I try to convince Sam oh dude, that's a fair trade.
Hey, but let's put it out there. One of the benefits of being on this podcast is some of the league listens to you. Austin, Jaxs came on here and Sam, and they've both said, hey, hit me up for this. And then hell, they ended up being the two that traded together. Austin, what are you looking at right now to trade? What are you looking at? What do y'all need?
I'm saying in the deal, I need an RB2.
So I'm actually going to come in with the Hoptown Fantasy Football Podcast first sponsored advertisement read, and I'm going to advertise Derrick Henry and Jerry Jeudy. You can come get them. I'm offering a regular price. Nothing special. It's not going to be a blockbuster deal. It's going to be square on both sides. It's going to be upside spread around, but you can come get Derrick Henry for the cheapest price he's ever been at.
All right. So you heard it here first. If you want to go shopping for Henry or Jeudy, he's going to give good prices. Listen, nobody has come to me in this league to talk trades, and I think I'm in the top 2 or 3 of league history of trades done in this league. So listen,
the reason I haven't come to you is I have an RB2, and I don't think you have an RB2 to give me.
You're saying you want an RB2 is what you want?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair enough. Listen, guys, I need an RB2. I'm willing to do even crazier things. I don't like my team anymore. I thought I loved it last week. I hate it now. I'm willing to get crazy. I think everybody's on the table, but Jett is. Maybe Lamar, dude. Lamar could be one of those guys this year, man. We'll talk about it more
Yeah,
later.
we'll talk.
Hey, one quick before we run into the recap in the weeks and everything. Let's do a who are you panicked on?
For
Who?
player.
All right, we talked about some people we were worried about last week, but it was week 1. Now it's week 2. You know, like we're in week 2, week 3. It's like you got to start making finalized judgments because every week in fantasy football is so important. So you gotta start making judgments on people, and you gotta start acting upon those.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you panicked on? Who is the official? This is not right. Is Derrick Henry panic?
I don't think Derrick Henry's panic.
All right, Derrick Henry's not panic. What do you think? Yes or no, Bone? Like,
I'm gonna go no. He has some good matchups coming up the next couple of weeks. So I'm gonna go not panic right now.
I'm gonna go panic on Derrick Henry. I think the offensive line stinks. I think the offense as a whole stinks. I think that he'll have some games where he has even better yardage output, but touchdowns are just not going to be as available as they were. Panic on Derrick Henry. How about this? Kyle Pitts. I'm freaking panicked. It's over. The Kyle Pitts experiment, it stinks. There are things that I've texted that I cannot verbalize on this podcast about what I want to do, either to Kyle Pitts, Arthur Smith, or the Falcons in general. I'm panicked. It's a disaster. Arthur Smith doesn't want to get the ball to his best player. And listen, I understand. You know, fantasy football is not winning real NFL games. However, he's like, yeah, I'm Matthew Berry. Actually, this is one of the few segments that I did like of Matthew Berry when he was talking about. They drafted Pitts with the 4th overall pick. And this is all a summary of what Matthew Berry said. So
I saw the video you are talking.
And I agree. You know, you're throwing it to Kadarius Hodge. You're not winning any games. All right. That's the thing. Is like you're not winning games. And like your offense is what put you behind last game. Like you came back, but it wasn't enough because your offense stunk for 3 quarters. I'm panicked on Kyle Pitts. Three targets. Panic. Yes or no for y'all?
I'm actually not panicked on Kyle Pitts.
Just
because I think when he goes out there, I think he's like one of the best players on the field. I mean, and like we saw.
Austin, your audio is kind of.
You hear better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Like whenever he goes out there, he's just like he's one of the best players on the field, and he has like we saw buddings of like that elite level talent last year. I think it's just a matter of time before they start like actually using Kyle Pitts. Like last year with JT, the Colts started out like kind of cold, and JT wasn't doing that well, and like there's just a lot of demand for like what are you doing? Jonathan Taylor's on the field, he looks great, and he's just the pedigree that comes with players like that, like they're eventually going to have to give him opportunities.
Yeah, no, I agree with also. I'm not really panicked yet. Although Drake London is a beast. And
yeah, but that should help Kyle Pitts. That's fine.
That should. Scheme something up for him. No, I agree. I get what you're saying.
You know, the thing is, yes, I am panicked, but no, you're not going to get Kyle Pitts off me for cheap now. This is those points as a fantasy owner. You bear down. You can't sell Kyle Pitts for what people will try to offer at this point. And you can't bench him. So you don't want to sell low on a guy like Kyle Pitts right now, even though I am panicked.
Yeah.
Like on the record, Kyle Pitts could stink, and maybe I should trade him off. But no, Kyle Pitts, you're not going to get him for cheap.
Yeah.
So
I have 2 more names for the panics, but I'm more waiting to bring that up when we talk about the week 2 matchups.
Okay.
Is there anything with the trades that any other thoughts y'all have with them?
No, other than somebody else needs to start talking other than Jaxs and Sam.
So
Judy and Derrick, come get them.
RB2, I need one. Somebody offer.
Jack's been trying to get rid of Zeke for 2 weeks now.
He has. I don't really want him as my RB2. But
I can't go near Zeke. The stench is just too bad.
I will. Well, we'll get into that. So, we're gonna get into the week 2 matchups here. Talk about some different players and everything. First matchup we're gonna get into is Jane and TJ. TJ. Well, we can talk. Well, I'll mention this at the end of. Actually, I'll go ahead and mention this. Just an unbelievable league we have. One person 2-0. Austin, that's you. One person 0-2, and then 10 people 1-1. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
10 1-1s, man. Like
Yeah.
nobody is feeling great right now other than Austin. Like everybody is like, well, I'm 1 week away from being at the back of the pack.
Yeah.
Our league is crazy. It was a crazy week last week. Like, I mean, Jalen Waddle put up 41 points and he was 4th on High Man. So that's crazy.
Yeah. I got robbed of High Man on freaking
My digs.
Monday night.
So yeah, so like I said, okay. So John Morgan beat TJ 117.28 to 90.52. Like TJ said, Lamar, great performance. Saquon was in, but Jeff Wilson was good.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Wilson had a fine game. Justin Jefferson, better days ahead. You know, you talked about Pitts, Juju, PU, just that the outside of Kelsey, the pass catchers for the Chiefs are just yuck.
Yeah. Well,
Yuck.
I'll say this about Juju. My panic alarm's not up yet on him. I think that was
Yeah.
a really tough matchup, like a really tough matchup. And he looked really good still week 1. And he's getting out there on the field like more than the other receivers. I think he's okay. I mean, maybe he's not what I was hoping he would be after week 1, but
But here is the question everybody's wanting to know. Paris Campbell, you inserted him into your flags. I think you picked him up Sunday morning. So when you picked him up?
yeah, Sunday morning or Saturday.
Yeah, something like that. Because Michael Pittman didn't play week 2. And he inserted Campbell into that flex spot over Rashad Bateman. Now, obviously, it ended up not mattering. Either way, TJ still would have lost. But Bateman put up a 20 spot and Paris Campbell put up a goose egg. So, TJ, what were you thinking there?
Yeah, fellas, this was a blunder. However, I think my reasoning behind it is acceptable. You know, I like Bateman. He's super talented, but he didn't get like a ton of targets last week. And he's only on the field like 68% of the time just because of the offense the Ravens run. So, you know, Paris Campbell in the past has shown really good flashes of being very talented. And Pittman and Pierce were out, and the Jacksonville Jaguars secondary is supposed to be and was last week one of the worst units in the league. So yeah, I was like, you know what, man? Matt Ryan loves his wide receiver 1s. Paris Campbell's talented. We're rocking with Paris Campbell. I called it a galaxy brain move that morning. And you know, this was a galaxy that's been evaporated already. This is a galaxy that we were looking at in the sky, but it's been gone. It doesn't exist. It was a peanut brained move. It was a smooth chicken breast brained move by me. You got to play your better players. Paris Campbell didn't really show anything this year. I'm going back in my files for him. Other than that, I don't have much to say. That, you know, Matt Ryan, wide receiver 1, terrible secondary. I thought the Jaguars would score 2, so I thought it'd be a good passing game. But Matt Ryan is horrible, and the Colts are absolutely horrible. So Paris Campbell's hitting the waivers, and we won't talk about it
again. But we'll delete those files from our memory. So
overall, though, on the matchup, like I still don't feel strong about James' team, and I know he served me an L. And
that was going to be the next thing I brought up. I was going to say, you know, he had Derek Carr had a good game. Maury Cooper had a really good game, 25 points. CJ Moore 3 for 43 and a touchdown, so he ended up having a good day. Pat Firemuth, 4 for 22 and a touchdown, so he had a good day. But I'm like you. I'm not big on Jane's team still. And a guy that I want to bring up on if we're panic about is Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, Austin.
This is
Panic or not.
back to back bad weeks from him. Well,
I'm-
his week one was
I'm
bad,
I'm panicked on Dalvin Cook, for sure. And I don't know why. I really have the least reason to be panicked about him over other running back because he's not like coming off of a crazy injury or anything like that. And they seem to be like using him. Did he change his number to 4?
Yes, that was what he was in college.
Okay, he's
but
got to
what's his
go
number
back to
last year?
he's got to go back to 33.
Or was it 33? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. That's what
I agree.
makes me panic the most is because he just changed his number. He doesn't look like the same player out there. Maybe it's a different person. Maybe Dalvin Cook is faked his death and had a doppelganger fill in for him.
This might not be Dalvin, but
Yeah. Maybe
I'm
out.
not panicked yet on Dalvin. I've actually been the guy that's panicked on the other two y'all haven't on, but I'm not going to panic on Dalvin yet. Last game was just terrible for everybody on the Vikings offense.
Mhm.
We can chalk that aside. The Eagles were dominant last night.
Yeah.
And Cousins did not do anything to help any type of run game get established because he was throwing it away or not executing. I think Dalvin is okay. Jonathan Taylor, man, like if that offense is really bad and Matt Ryan can't do anything and can't get out of the pocket and can't make plays, does he get lasered in on? So if Jane doesn't have Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook start producing like good, still in a world of hurt because I just don't think you can rely on Amari Cooper to do this much with Brissett.
No, I agree. The wide receivers are hurting.
DJ Moore was a touchdown away from another really bad week, and that I might be panic on DJ Moore, like for real.
Yeah.
That Baker has never incorporated his wide receiver ones.
Mhm.
Baker stinks, man. I keep wanting to believe in Baker, and the dude can't. The dude, like, honestly, shout out to Odell Beckham. I feel sorry for the dude. Like, his career may have actually genuinely got thwarted by having to play with Baker Mayfield because he can't get it to his guys. He just can't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's good. In the games he's good, he's like throwing, like, it's like some random weird dude that's open, like Peoples Jones 3 years ago or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
Like so I went to the Panthers game when they played the Browns opening day, and watching Baker out there, it's like he's like seeing stuff that isn't there. Like he'll go away from his first read and stuff. It's almost like
He
to a
just
fault
looks,
sometimes. He holds the ball. I mean, like he's just like looking around and like happening to find somebody open. Like he's like doing his progressions too fast. Or
yeah,
something.
that's what I was saying. He just looks panicked. His movements and everything, they look rushed, and it just doesn't look fluid, and he doesn't look comfortable. I mean, he hasn't looked comfortable in the pocket in ages.
Yeah, it
I don't
feels like he's gonna get sacked every play.
Yeah. I don't like anything that's going on in Carolina other than McCaffrey's just going to be good off
Yeah.
of sheer opportunities and pass catching.
Yeah.
But, like, there's a point where the Panthers' only fantasy relevant person is Christian McCaffrey. Like, it could get to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Which is a dang shame because I do think DJ Moore is a talented wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, he's never played with anybody worth.
Yeah.
I think they're going to figure out a way, but John's team still hasn't convinced me yet. Although, congrats to him on the win.
Who? Oh, Jane's team. Yeah.
John Morgan.
Yeah.
And Jane, I love you to death. I just don't like the team you got going right now. But if D-Hop came back and was good and you stepped up with Dalvin, then you definitely can climb up the ranks in my eyes.
Yeah. I will say, Jane, you have 3 somewhat good, 2 good running backs and Josh Jacobs with 19 carries last week. Still the RB1 on that team. So maybe hit me up. Maybe we can do something.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I agree on Jane's team though. I agree with you on that.
I think that my team, when I look at it more before we move on, it's, I think Lamar is going to turn into one of those special guys that's going to keep me around. And then do I have Saquon? I think it's going to come down to I think Lamar is going to steadily put up a lot of points.
Yeah.
Does Saquon or Jettas go hard for me in a week? If not, then I'm struggling. But if Pitts steps up, I still love my team. But Pitts right now is not worth anything. So that's it. Moving on, 2 bottom half teams there. Bad matchup. It stunk.
Is that a preview for the power rankings?
I peanut chicken breast brained it. Moving on. Yeah. 2
So-
bottom half teams.
So next matchup we're gonna talk about, we got Sam versus Dylan. Sam won 111.94 to 104.7. So both teams are now 1-1 on the year. Jane and TJ are also 1-1 on the year. On Sam, with Sam's team, he didn't really have anybody that just absolutely went crazy. Just had a lot of people did decently good other than Kirk Cousins. And this right here is why I was not a fan of the Kirk Cousins trade. TJ, I know you said something last week about, the big deal, it's just key to have those really big quarterbacks in there instead of streaming. And this right here is just why I'm not. This right here just wasn't a fan of it. Austin, what do you think about what was your exact quote with the quarterbacks? I can't think of what you said last week.
I just said that it's important to have somebody you can trust week in, week out. And I still think Kirk Cousins is going to be fine. He just had the Monday. Listen, the Eagles are great this year. And
They're really good.
Monday night.
And Kirk sucks on primetime.
Kirk Cousins sucks in primetime, but also Monday night in Philly, top 5 rowdy fan base in the league. Darius Slay was playing some of the best cornerback I've seen in a long time. Really, truly one of the few times I've just been like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So, we'll get past the primetime Cousins. I think he's going to be okay.
And you talk about it's important to get somebody in there you trust. And I agree with that. But I just want to say, I just don't think Kirk is somebody you trade for.
Right. That's fine.
You got these people on the waivers. Tua, the week he had. Carson Wentz, the week he had. Jared Goff, the week he had. All of these. Waivers. Trevor Lawrence. All of these are just, I'm not saying those guys are necessarily better than Kirk.
Yeah.
But it's just there may be somewhere maybe about the same or just slightly worse. It's not like Kirk's that much better. And so I just think until Dak could come back, I just think he could have streamed this QB position and gotten, stream it, get some good matchups. And because, the Ravens secondary sucks. So the Tua's matchup was better. Wentz's matchup was better. Goff's matchup was better than Kirk. And heck, even Joe Flacco's matchup was better. So I'm just saying, I felt like he could have streamed other than trade for Kirk.
I didn't say that Tua was on waivers.
Do what?
I said it's funny Tua was on waivers.
Yeah.
But
like I said, Sam, everybody, he had James Robinson on his bench. He ended up deciding to go. He honestly just didn't have room for him. I kind of understand why he didn't put him on there this week. And then with Curtis Samuel on his bench also went out. So, we discussed Sam's team in the trade. So we'll, we have our thoughts on him. Dylan's team.
Mm-hmm.
Should there be some worry with? Brady has not looked good. We kind of briefly talked about him. Alvin was hurt last week, but he has Elijah Mitchell on IR, Cam Akers. So Austin, what are you thinking here? Specifically, QB and RB position, those look very worrisome right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think his RB situation will get better once Kamara comes back. And I don't know. Christian Kirk looks like he's going to have a breakout year. I mean, he's looked really, really nice, and I've kind of watched over some of the games and stuff, and he kind of stood out as like they're definitely going to him uh in a way that like reflects all the money that they paid him. Like he's truly their first option in that receiving game.
Mhm.
Travis Kelsey, I mean, I think he's going to be Travis Kelsey. We don't know yet on Drake London, and we were just talking about the Eagles. AJ Brown, I mean, he looks incredible on the field. He didn't have a great game last night, but I mean, he
But I mean,
just looked
12
crazy.
points on an off game is like something you're very welcoming to, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
So I think Dylan's team like it might not look the prettiest, but I don't think I'm that worried about it because Kamara could still be big.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I
In,
guess we can once he gets Kamara back. And I mean, what were you gonna say, TJ?
in summary, I think the worst thing that happened. All right, so Dylan's gonna be a little lower for me this week. And like I said, there was like last week when I was looking at his team, and still Dylan's had the injury bug more than anybody this year so far.
Yes.
Um, like when he's at full force, his team still like looks pretty dang good. But the things that are dropping Dylan right now is he's hurt. Tom Brady is Tom Brady going to get back to even close to last year for him? It doesn't have to be quite there. And then it's frustrating for him. He has Henderson and Akers. To me, I still think Henderson looked much better, but McVay out of nowhere just said, I'm going to give the ball to Cam Akers more. Now, Daryl Henderson did get the touchdown. But if that turns into a 50-50 split, it's like, who do you play each week? And one of those guys is going to probably bust. And so he needs Kamara to get back healthy. And then also there's questions about that. And then he needs, the Rams backfield is a very big concern for him and Brady. But other than that, like he said, Christian Kirk's great. His wide receivers are great. And he's got
Yeah. And he has what?
Godwin on the bench, who I
Yeah.
think is going to be good. So
Yeah, I really like the pass catchers he has.
Dylan's ceiling is so high. If these running backs, if one of those, honestly, all he needs is for Kamara to be really good, and then Brady to just average like 18 to 20 a week.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Sam had a 111 with his quarterback only putting up 8. You like to see that. Mixon had an off week. His team is getting production across all positions. We also didn't go in and stat correct this.
Yeah, I did. So I
With
could it wouldn't let me individually correct the defensive stack, but it let me add a point. But to his overall, I was able to add a point.
okay.
So he's at 110, and I added him to 111.
I got you. All right. So, we did a new rule this year to where we're not going to let the defenses go negative. His defense put up 0. Like Sam had a good week, steady production across the board. Nobody went crazy. His quarterback didn't do well. Dylan's hurt. He kind of had an okay week too, but just a very one of the closest matchups of the week in just like an average type of game. So
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So next matchup was me versus Jaxs. I beat Jaxs 145.48 to 131.18. To both of us are now 1-1 on the year. I guess just start off with my team. The other person I wanted to bring up about if y'all are panic is Eckler. Panic or no?
What do you think, Austin?
I don't. They're starting to really kind of split that backfield up and give other people opportunities. It's kind of strange the way that they're doing that. Uh, so I mean, combined it's like 16 carries between the other two backs, but that's still 16 opportunities that I mean, if 8 of those go to Eckler, he can do big things with those. And it was a tight game. So I don't know. He ended up with a good score, but a lot of it was that last kind of stretch of them trying to make the comeback really quickly. And while I was watching that, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, why are they not giving it to Eckler every single play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my thoughts on this are during the game, especially, I was panicked. And I
There's a ton of
would
people who panicked.
I would still be. However, there's one thing I like for him in the next few weeks. But let's say this: Eckler, as Austin mentioned, they're working in so Michelle and Joshua Kelly are splitting RB2 duties. The main thing I didn't like were there's like three things. One, I think Herbert loves pushing the ball downfield. So I think he's getting more and more confident he's going to push the ball downfield more. That's not good for Eckler. Two, they just have so many weapons downfield that it's kind of stupid not to do that. Two, those other two running backs are getting on the field more than we've seen. Three, the most concerning, they were giving Sony Michelle the ball at the goal line when like Eckler very well could have been in there. Why? I don't know. However, so I was panicked, but I do think these next few weeks Eckler is going to be good. And the thing that's working in his favor is that I'm assuming Herbert's going to play, but he's going to be in a lot of pain, and I think they're going to minimize the amount of times that Herbert really has to kind of let it loose per se. And they're going to make quick plays. They're going to get the ball out of Herbert's hand quick. I don't think they want him getting beaten and battered while he's hurt. So I think Eckler is going to be a really solid daily fantasy play like next week, because I think they're going to design a lot of dump downs. They're going to get the ball out quick. They're going to run the ball more. And he's maybe discounted based off his last few weeks. So I could see Eckler having the overall RB1 week next week.
I would love that. So I'm not really.
But I was panicked. But this, I think, is in favor for him for next week.
So before the Herbert injury, I was like short-term panicked. I mean, part of me thinks they're probably like trying to save him. I mean, they know they have a good team. They know that they should make the playoffs. They know that they have Super Bowl aspirations. So I'm thinking like they're probably saving him more, just save the hits on him, the touches for later in the year. I agree with you with the Herbert, with the injured ribs, him just dumping it off and everything. But just to go back to my first point real quick, let's say they are doing that. I don't like that. Even if Eckler wasn't on my team, I don't think that's a good NFL decision necessarily, because it's not like his backups are doing anything. And Eckler still looks really good when he touches the ball. I mean, Brandon Staley right now is competing with, in my opinion, with Cliff Kingsbury for worst coach in the league. It just some of the decisions.
I think Daniel Hackett is off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's another one that is.
And Matt Rule is
that is also that both of those are good, I guess, but Staley's up there, and
I understand.
You're
right. I agree. You're right on Kingsbury. You called that a while ago. Austin, who thinks the worst coach in the league?
Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, he might be, man. I marvel at some of the coaching, or maybe it's Arthur Smith, because all right, the whole thing not force feeding your best player. Like, oh, did we not just see a Super Bowl where a team literally did nothing but force feed their freaking best player all year? Like, they won a Super Bowl doing it. You can do it. You can get your ball to your best player a lot and be good because of it. Drake London should help take some pressure off, but whatever. Canby, I like your team a lot, actually. I think it stepped up. It made some statements, and I think that'll reveal itself more. Who we haven't talked about, though, we talked about Jax's team some, and Jaxs, I said in the draft, getting Nick Chubb, I said this on the one, like getting Nick Chubb that late is a value pick.
Yeah.
He's so good. Nick Chubb is so good.
He's very good.
Yeah, we did.
Nick Chubb might be the best running back in the league.
Just from a pure runner, yeah. Go on, Nelson.
We didn't even mention Nick Chubb when we were talking about Jax's team earlier, and
a little bit, but
yeah, I think that's a stabilizing force on his team, just because I don't really see it like. I just think Nick Chubb is just gonna be really, really consistent. And I mean, Deshaun's not gonna be back till like November, so
Yeah, Nick Chubb, he's RB1 right now for everybody wondering. The RB production this year has been abysmal.
It has.
Um,
It
it's
has.
been
Actually,
terrible.
well, let me with you bringing that up, I actually saw a tweet today. Let me bring this up. So through 2 weeks, RB's drafted in the first round, which is JT, C-Mac, D-Hen, Najee, Eckler, Mixon. They're averaging 16 points per game. Wide receivers drafted in the first round: Cup, Jefferson, Chase, Adams, Diggs. In most leagues, I know Adams fell in second in ours, but in most leagues, all those went first round. They are averaging 26 points a game.
Yeah.
So just, which maybe that coincides with just how football is going now with the air in and out and everything.
Yeah.
So, but we like I said, we talk about Jax's team. I still like it. We mentioned my team. Still need an RB2. We don't really know what's up with Chase in Miami. Mike Evans, I think, is fine. Is suspended next week. I love Andrews at the tight end spot. St. Brown stepping up is awesome. And then, of course, it's really good to see Garrett Wilson step up.
Yeah,
And-
Amon-Ra is a wide receiver 1 until he doesn't earn it because he did it in the last season. And is he? So he's probably wide receiver 2 now, behind Diggs.
So he's actually wide receiver 3.
Behind Diggs and who probably?
I don't know. I can't. It's kind of hard to.
Oh, probably Tyreek.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
Well, that was a good matchup between two teams that I like in this league. So
yeah, I really like Jax's team a lot.
145. Jaxs losing with their 132 is always tough, but
It is. I will say his defense also put up 14, which is kind of. But either way, either way, he would still put up like 125. His defense didn't do that. So a good week.
Yeah, and speaking of, it's tough losing with 131. Let's move on to that next matchup where LB is on 2 after 2 very good weeks.
Is that the next matchup you want to go with? We can do that. So LB, tough week for him. Hayden beat him 151.66 to 136.38. Hayden's now 1-1. LB falls to 0-2. Tough week for LB. Tough week. Yeah, I really like LB's team.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, LB might be you'll see. LB's got a top 5 team and he's on 2.
Yeah.
It's admittedly really funny. I kind of want him to miss the playoffs just because it's fun having that over him. But if I was in his spot, I would be very, very frustrated right now. And I think kind of hold it in. But what do you think about CD Lamb? Did you like that? Did you it seemed like Cooper Rush was really going to him a lot. Austin, did you watch the game? Big Cowboy fan?
No, I didn't, but my dad was giving me a literal minute by minute, play by play. So I think that CD was going to be fine no matter what. I think a lot of people get panicked because he has a tendency to have games where he's just it seems like he's just not even out there, not even involved. But I mean, he also just has games where he's the focal point. He's really the only person that's getting it going. So he never really panicked me too terribly much. I like LB's team a lot. I think he's going to wax me this week. LB and me were texting earlier this week, and he already informed me that he's putting up 150 on me. So he says that ought to get it done.
LB did tell me, he said he's not scared of voodoo anymore, and he said he texted you saying he's going to hang 150 on your head. So
yeah,
he's confident, and I love it. So let's hope he can get he deserves a win. I think that the gods should give him one win in these first 3 weeks, just merely off the fact that he's probably like second in the league in points or something.
I think so. Something like that.
Yeah. Positive regression is coming.
Yeah, positive regression is coming.
Yeah. Also, LB, you have a bunch of RBs. Hit me up. But Hayden's team, I mean, Cooper Kupp's just unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, Cooper Kupp alone might make your team just top 5, like just by having Cooper Kupp and other people.
So Dalton Schultz is hurt, so he's going to have to pick a tight end off of waivers. I do like his pass catchers. Hunt is going to have better days ahead of him, and Aaron Jones, he's going to have up and down weeks. But Burrow again just didn't seem it's not right. Something isn't right. But he didn't play all preseason either. So maybe that's a big reasoning why.
Yeah. A lot of people are still saying the Bengals O-line is bad, and it may not be good, but I'm telling you, like, there's a reason he's getting sacked so much, and it's maybe a little bit because of the line, but Joe Burrow is doing this thing where, he doesn't see his first read. He kind of ducks down a little bit and like gets stuck behind that O-line, and I think he panics a little bit too quick right now.
Well, to be honest, if for those that watch Kentucky fans, it's a little bit of Will Levis, a little bit.
Yeah. So you know what he can do.
Yeah.
This week though, coming up for the Bengals is an absolute must win against the Jets.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying they're 0-2, which is panic, but then they faced Mitch Trubisky and Cooper Rush and they're 0-2. I mean, come on, man.
And after the Jets, you go Dolphins at Baltimore at the Saints.
But the good thing about Burrow is, for fantasy wise, is as bad as he's looked, he's put up numbers that are acceptable. With
18 to 16.
And I want to go back to what I was saying about Hayden's team last week. I said, that Aaron Jones Kareem Hunt combo, they may do it differently every week. It may be one popping off, one not, or they both being average. But this 40-point range right here, which is what I was talking about last week, I'm thinking more like 35-ish. But like I said, man, like those two running backs, they're just one of them is going to get it done each week.
Yeah.
I like his running backs. Cooper Kupp is like 3 receivers at one position. And then
Cooper Kupp's actually wide receiver too, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then Mike Williams literally can win you some weeks. And then to complement that, I like that he has Deontay Johnson because he's a really low ceiling, but really high floor guy. So.
Yeah,
Schultz was also really nice too, which he may only miss him for a couple weeks or 1 or 2, and but John and then LB's got a deep team. He's got Lenny, Connor's hurt right now, but I feel bad for LB. But great matchup between 2 top 5 teams in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree with that. So next up, we'll talk about your team, Austin. We got Austin beat Jack 112.66 to 94.6. Both Austin moved to 2-0. Jack moved to 1-1. Big week or big win, Austin. Very key to get to that 2-0 start, which you did. But just to start off, Russell Wilson, are you panicked or not panicked?
I'm panicked because I think I could go out there and coach a better game than Nathaniel Hackett, and I'm rusty on my coverages. It's just I don't know. I just don't really see. I don't really see like where he's gonna like. They're letting him throw the ball more. This is supposed to be where Russell Wilson went. Like he's having his say with the offense and stuff, and it's just looked really, really rough so far. I don't particularly like the way that he's being used and stuff. It's a lot of like dink and dunk stuff. Kind of like he's throwing a few long balls, but for the most part, it's just rather pedestrian. And so yeah, that definitely concerns me. He's probably the most panicked that I am about a person on my team.
Yeah, I think, but I do like the rest of your team looking at it right now. Breece Hall stepping up is very, very huge. Maybe Everett can end up being an okay tight end. We'll see when Keenan comes back.
Yeah.
So
I'll say this about my team. Like coming back from the draft, I was texting TJ and I was like, the average age of the people on my bench is 21. And so like I just had a lot of really unproven people. I think it's I think my team is really good in its foundation. I really like my starters, but I think it's just really, really thin and really
Mhm.
top heavy right now. I think I'm gonna have to do a lot of work, like working the waivers and maybe get a trade in there. Like I said, Judy, Derrick Henry. We'll see what we can wrestle up with the trades.
Yeah. I will also say I has to be a good feeling, very positive to see Chris Olave with 13 targets.
Yeah.
So
Uh, he's he's impressing me. I didn't really expect him to like blossom off the bat. I'm still kind of looking to see like a glimmer of something like special from him, but the targets is definitely
yeah.
uh, a good sign.
Yeah. No, I agree. As far as Jack's team, his stars just, I mean, Javante stunk, Chase stunk, Kirks didn't do much. I guess it was good for him to see Higby have a good week. I mean, I think this is pretty back to back fairly good weeks, or as far as what you would expect from him.
Yeah.
But Jack right now is trying to get rid of Zeke, and he's not able to right now.
No.
uh,
Jack's team is going to join me in one of the biggest free fallers in the rankings. Um, his team really needs basically what he needs is for Mahomes and Chase to go hard, and they can. That's like
Yeah.
two guys that you like for a lot of. However, I actually like where he got Miles Sanders, and like Miles Sanders serves a good role, but
mhm.
honestly, Javante, man, like he had a good game as far as like 5 yards
Yeah.
of carry. He got 4 targets, but he's just in this really frustrating deal going on right now. So like
Yeah.
Javante is not being an RB1. Miles Sanders is okay. He's just not great. I like Miles Sanders as an RB2 right now, but
Yeah.
he's just not doing anything special. So like you got Javante Sanders. Cooks is, I think, good and will get targets, but his upside is limited by the Texans offense, and he's just not a touchdown guy.
Yeah.
Higby, I think, will regress some at some point, and then Zeke, his flex options are.
The
He
flex
needs,
options are
he needs J.K. Dobbins to get back, and for him to be good, which I'm worried about as well, just because the Ravens running backs, even with Lamar, even though they run a lot, it's just they don't produce.
yeah, it's
One
not
because Lamar is like their goal line guy.
yeah.
Um, so Jack has more question marks, but it's basically like he needs, Chase and Mahomes to put up 50 between the two of them.
Yeah.
And when they do, he'll probably win. When they don't, he may not. So,
Yep. I
anyway.
agree.
All right, one more matchup.
So one more, which was another high scoring pretty good matchup. Collins beat John Tom 160.82 to 122.16. Collins, great week by him, high team, high player. And I was looking at Collins' team today, and once he insert Kittle into the lineup, and I really, really like his team. Like really like the team.
Yeah, no, Sam. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I think Collins' team is really, really good. And I don't know. DeAndre Swift to me looks like somebody that could finish like top 1, 2, or 3 in RVs because the Lions offense actually looks really good. And he's getting some really good opportunities in there. Jamal Williams worries me a little bit on that front, but I mean, I don't think it matters when DeAndre Swift's out there. I mean, he can just do so many things with the ball. Um, so I really like that. I think Stephon Diggs might come away as being the pick of the draft because I
Mhm.
mean Buffalo obviously looks like a powerhouse. I can't really think of the last time that I saw a team that like might have one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses. Um, Yeah, I think there's just a lot of things to love about Collins' team. He might need to sort out the RB2 position a little bit, but I think Michael Carter will be fine.
So yeah, I think Carter will be fine. And of course, Damian Harris, although the snap percentage for Harris is a little concerning, he did still have 15 carries.
It's
last
really
week.
hard to field the Patriots are running back.
It is. I agree. It is. So, but maybe that's somebody that he can insert in there. But I do like Carter. Devontae Smith had a big step up week, 7 for 7, 80 yards. Maybe that's somebody he can plug into that flex position since Darnell Mooney is poo that Bears offense.
And going back to TJ's point on Pitts, I think Collins has put himself in a position with Kittle where I don't think that he's going to get nearly the value that he should trading Kittle. And so he's kind of it might just be like a tough spot where he just has to kind of ride that out.
I don't know if I agree with that though, just because I think people like the Kittle Garoppolo action that's coming. So honestly, I could see a world where he could get good value on Kittle right now. Because what if Kittle never even gets healthy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I see that a little different only because Garoppolo is there and people know there's a really good connection between those two.
And me and TJ have both had Kittle in the past, and it's just kind of a situation where like you have to kind of realize that he might play 6 games, but and he can win you 3 of those games, and like that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is like
Frustrating.
it's frustrating. But if that's something that your team needs, there's definitely like a niche role for a person like Kittle.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not a believer in Logan Thomas being all that sufficient long term.
Yeah, I'm not either. And so, I mean, I just, like I said, he ended up having a good week. 3 for 5, 37 yards, a touchdown, but Kittle's that is his tight end. So, as far as John Tom's team,
Better.
so what's that?
Damian Pierce looked a little better too for him, which is nice.
Yeah. And of course, he still has Rondell Moore, who's also hurt. So I think big things. Like I said, I really like Collins' team. As far as John Tom's team, Herbert had a nice week. Mike Tom again, a nice week. I think it was nice to see Dallas Goedert had the week he have, but everybody else, D Adams, you expect to, he's going to have better weeks ahead. But his running back position, Austin, Najee, Travis Etienne, just those two as a whole, panic or not panic?
Oh, I'm really panicked on Najee. I just don't. I mean, Mitch Trubisky, like, it just isn't. He's not suited to throw the ball to anybody, let alone a running back. It's a tough situation with Najee, and like if they're rolling it out there, and he's got this like foot injury that keeps popping up, the whole situation scares me. I think ETN will look better, but I mean, if James Robinson is doing well for that team, I don't really see like where they have to shake things up too terribly much, especially like they could be the best team in that division, actually,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about, but
they are right now. I would say that the Jaguars are. Lawrence looks like he's the best quarterback in the division right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like, arguably with the Colts, he's got the best weapons too.
Yeah.
But Matt Ryan looks like he's about to collapse into dirt. So
yeah, I will say this about John's team real quick before we move on. Tony Pollard looked really good, so maybe that can help stabilize the position a little bit. And Tyler Lockett, 9 catches, 11 targets, 107 yards. So that was also had to be promising from him to see. Jacoby Myers also had a good game for the Patriots. So maybe
I like John's team. It's lower on my rankings because his running backs, both of them right now, just aren't promising. And then, it's like, what do you do with DK?
yeah.
Well, and Herbert too. If Herbert's hobbled,
that's true.
Anybody being hobbled, anybody being rolled out 80%, whether they're Justin Herbert or anybody, you just don't like get the production that you're promising, that like you don't get what you're drafting them for.
Yeah.
out of those games.
I would like it, man. You know, the thing is John, I think John needs to be in the trade market. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a deep bench, and I think you could package a guy like Najee and Jacoby Myers and get somebody.
Or maybe he could come and get Derrick Henry and Jerry Judy from me.
Yeah, but I like John as a prospect to make some moves. I know I texted him a little bit today. We'll see. However, he's got some question marks, and
He does.
I agree, Austin Herbert for the few weeks, like how much are they going to sling it? What, maybe he comes out and nothing changes and he's fine. We'll see. That'll all be interesting. But
Yeah. So those are the week 2 matchups. Fellas, y'all have anything else? Any other thoughts, opinions, concerns?
no, I think we dove into a lot of good analysis there between
Yeah.
everybody and talked about people. So
Yeah. Real quick before TJ gets into the power rankings, I'm just going to read off who the week 3 matchups are. So I'll play Collins. TJ plays Dylan. Jane plays Sam. Jaxs plays John. Hayden plays Jack. And Austin, you play LB, which is actually a low-key huge matchup for y'all.
It is.
You
It's the
you can go 0, if you can go 3-0, that's huge step towards the playoffs, and LB falls to 0-3. That's not good.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm really worried about this weekend. I've been LB has sent full force voodoo towards me, and I'm worried.
So yeah, and Collins lucky dog getting Mike Evans on suspension with playing me.
If I'm panicked about anything, it's an LB 160 point voodoo bomb.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, big matchups. I mean, it's funny. All the 1-1 people are playing each other, and then you got the 2-0, 0-2, man. This league. So there's a chance if LB can beat Austin, then the entire league will be 2-1 or 1-2.
It's crazy.
Who will be in the 2-1?
But to be honest, like if that happens,
Who will be in the 2-1 crew?
If that happens, that honestly coincides with how the draft went. Because I thought the draft was extremely hard once we got past a certain round. I mean, I need to go back and look at it. And everybody knew what to do. Everybody was prepared.
The parody is incredible.
It is.
Absolutely. Other than the fact that John won 3 years in a row and doesn't even care. Probably is in the bottom 3 of caring about fantasy football. I mean, he loves about it, no doubt. He just doesn't. He's busy with a lot of other things, as probably we all should be. But I just sit around and work on stuff while texting about fantasy football all day. All right. Yeah,
that's right. So those are the week 3 matchups.
Big week. Thursday night game, PU.
That's PU. Brown Steelers is a PU game.
I guess you got a couple guys that'll be looking at it with interest. John Morgan, that's a game for John Morgan because John Morgan needs Amari Cooper to be good. So
he needs wins to buy time for D-Hop to come back. The thing is though, D-Hop, it's not even a guarantee D-Hop will be good when he comes back.
Yeah.
I think he'll be fine. I don't think you got to worry about D-Hop.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. The Cliff Kingsbury, I had D-Hop last year. Cliff Kingsbury worries me.
Yeah. But
so like I said, those are week 3 matchups. TJ, take it away with the power rankings.
All right, man. I think one good thing about my power rankings is that you always take them with a grain of salt because you'll just hear how different they are this week than they were last week. I think there's some guys that stay towards the top, some guys that fell. Let me go through the league here. Let me pull my standings up so when I talk about them, I can make sure I'm on the right page. But I put together this list earlier today while I was looking through. And still in last place. And like I said, I love John Morgan. I'm not trying to bag on his team, and he beat me this last week. And congratulations to him. But last place, I still got John Morgan's team. He's weak at QB. He's really weak at wide receivers. He got a touchdown out of Freiermuth last week. he's average at that. And then his running backs are a plus, but are performing at a minus right now. So he's still 12. However, with that being said, falling from the 2 spot all the way down to 11 is going to be myself. Why? Well, because Juju and Kyle Pitts may not be worth anything. Rashad Bateman is good. I benched him last week. However, I still worry about his usage rate. But like when he's
I
out
mean,
there,
Mark Andrews is still the wide receiver 1 in that offense.
yeah, Mark Andrews is still wide receiver 1, and he's out there more. So I've got wide receiver 2 flex questions. I've got a huge RB2. Like, I think Jeff Wilson's good, but like, what happens after Jeff Wilson? Like, I've got to have James Cook or Brian Robinson or Rashad Penny might be done. Like, that experiment might be over with. I mean, they split like between 4 running backs, and Kenneth Walker's getting there, and they spent a second rounder. So I've got some questions, but I do have Lamar, Jay Jettas, and Saquon, who are enough to win weeks. Like, that's the good thing. Like, when my team's on, it may have the biggest ceiling, especially if Pitts. If Pitts is good, my team is really good, but Pitts stinks. So I'm at 11. Number 10, I was talking about it. I like his team. By the way, I've still not set the alarm on anybody being out of the playoffs yet. Like, everybody's team's capable. Number 10, John Tom. His wide receivers are good. He's deep on the bench, but he's got a really weird running back situation. Like, can you start Tony Pollard over? Maybe you can start him over ETN now. Najee, you can't really bench, but I just don't think he has a high ceiling at all. He's like a 13-point a game guy, which, like, what does that do for you with the draft capital you spend on him? Dallas Goedert's a good tight end, and Herbert. I would put John up in 1 or 2 more spots, but I got to see what Herbert does with this injury. 9, which I think he was 6 last week, is Dylan's team. Like I said, like, this team really could come together and fly up the ranks at some point. However, with the questions about Tom Brady, his running backs, Kamara, and everything, he's super strong at wide receiver. He's got Kelsey, which is amazing. But for right now, he'll sit in that 9 spot, falling from the top spot. So just because you're in the top spot doesn't mean that you're protected forever, because things change. Is I'm going to have Jack at 8. I still think he's got a solid team, but like I said, Javonte Williams, I'm worried about. Like he didn't get 12 targets again, which I don't think is going to happen. And they're just splitting carries. So like, and he had a good game and he put up 9. So
I do also just real quick want to say we didn't really talk about this with talking with Jack, but Mahomes, like, he didn't play bad. You know, he was 24-35, but only 235 yards, 2 tuds. Teams are playing that too high safety again. Look, we're going to this year. You know, the Chargers did it.
Yeah. Well, I think also, though, the Chargers are a top 2 defense. So this year.
Fair enough. We'll see. We'll see what we'll continue to see. I just know I just bring that up because after the way Mahomes performed last year, it's just PTSD for me, at least.
No, I hear you. But he had a good week 1, and then
he did.
He, you know, but I think Jack has room for improvement at flex, tight end, and you know, he needs chasing Mahomes.
Yeah.
7 is going to be Jaxs. I think he's got a really solid team. I honestly wish he would have kept C-Mac. However, I'm not calling it an egregious trade or anything like that. And it very well could pan out with Debo. But right now I've got Jaxs at 7. He's got his wide receiver room improves with Debo. He's got Chubb. He needs Chubb to keep doing well. And he really needs David Montgomery to just at least get like 11 a game. And then he'll be fine there.
Yeah.
At 6, I think moving up a little bit. I said, even though you had your 2-0, I've got Austin. So you're in the top half now. But I still, like I said, week 1, you had the week 1, you had the big output from the kicker and defense, and then you won with kind of a subpar week this week and had 42 out of Tyreek. You've got your questions at Derrick Henry. Is he any good? You've got Russell Wilson. Can he be a fantasy relevant guy, tight end? Once you get Michael Pittman back, your big thing is having Reek Pittman. And Breece Hall looked good too. So that was promising. But I'll have you at 6. You're 2-0. You've had a good week, and then you've won both weeks. 5, I'll have Sam. This is close to around where I had him last week. I like the trade for him. He's going to be questionable at wide receiver, but if Sutton continues his output and Kirk Cousins can step back up, then Sam is going to be probably in that top 4-3 spot. At number 4, I'll have the 0-2 team, LB. So this is the worst record in the league at number 4 in the power rankings, which goes to show you what the league is all about. Yeah. Waddle, CD, Cordero, James Conner, Lenny, AJ Dillon. He's got a lot out there, and then all of that, and he's got the QB1, which is really impressive to get QB1, take him where he did, and then have as deep of a team as he did. So good job to LB in the draft.
Yeah.
But bad job of planning your matchups. Number 3, I will have the co-host, Mr. Camby. I like Camby's team a lot. I think that Eckler is going to have some good output in these coming weeks for reasons I've already said. Stafford is going to be solid at QB. He's not a plus, but he's not a minus, in my opinion, this year. Maybe we can talk about it next week. We'll see. But Chase Edmonds is somebody I wanted to talk about. It got away from us.
Yeah.
He worries me. So your RB2 spot, that's your big killer. Your big killer is RB2, but you've got Amon-Ra, you've got Andrews, you've got Mike Evans, you got Allen Robinson, so and Garrett Wilson, which is very, very promising. I like that team. Anytime you got a good tight end producing like a good tight end is a big advantage.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think the top 2 teams right now are pretty clear to me, and y'all would probably agree. I think Hayden in the number 2 spot, and that's heavily driven. He's got Cup. Like I said, I love the fact that Deontay Johnson is his flex receiver. He's somebody that fell in the draft, but he's going to give you those 12, 13 points that you need. Like, it's valuable to have that. And then he's got Mike Williams, who can give you 30 as well, in addition to Cup. And then you got 2 running backs that get a lot of touchdowns, they get receptions. And Joe Burrow, I think, is only going to get better, and he's already been fantasy relevant enough to keep the rest of his team afloat. And Dalton Schultz, I think, will be a plus tight end. So Hayden's got a really solid team. And then number 1, Camby was alluding to it when we were talking about it. He's a guy that's been number 1 on the rankings before and kind of mismanaged and fumbled, but man, Collins is number 1 for me right now. You got Jalen Hurts, you got D Swift, you got Michael Carter in the 2 spot looking nice right now. He's got Damian Pierce that started to, they gave him the ball more. He got a couple of receptions. Diggs seems to be Cooper Kupp level this year. T. Higgins looked good. That's the type of game that he drafted T. Higgins to have, is exactly what he did. And man, he's got a good little team here. He's got Kittle coming back with Garoppolo now. That's partially why I moved him up to 1. He would have been like 3. But Kittle with Garoppolo, Higgins, Diggs, Swift, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is so good right now. So there you have it. That's the power rankings. They've changed a little bit. I think the couple of followers were me and Jack. I moved Collins up quite a bit, and everybody else kind of hung around where they were.
Dylan fell a little bit too, but
Dylan fell from 6 to 9, and there's a few things, but the big followers were me and Jack. The big riser was Hayden and Collins, and the other people kind of in the middle of that sandwich just fell in different spots. So Any qualms, Austin, Camby, or y'all on board with those right now? Would y'all have a different best team, or you think Collins is the best team?
I think Collins is the best team. I really like Collins' team.
Yeah, he needs Kittle. Austin, you're muted, by the way, if you didn't know, but he needs Collins to, or he needs Kittle to be good. I think he will be with Garoppolo.
Yeah, I think if Collins hangs on to Kittle and kind of just grin and bear it for a little bit, I think his team is definitely the strongest. I would almost have Hayden and Collins 1A and 1B because I think just Hayden's team can just have an astronomical week on any given week.
Well,
There's just a lot of players in there that are really, really high ceiling players.
Well, you know what's common between those two guys is that they have Cup and Diggs, and right now, I'm hoping Jettas is going to be in that realm most weeks, but he's at least Jettas, I guess, is at least a little more prone to a bad week due to the fact his quarterback is Kirk Cousins. But having those guys that put up 30 like so easily, that just makes your team so good.
And Jalen Hurts is an automatic 25 points every week.
Yeah, and we always talk about it. Like it's going to be interesting next year. Like we always talk about, man, maybe this wide receiver is the number one pick next year, and then the draft comes, and the next thing you know, it's like 5 RBs.
And I even thought about, and I thought about taking wide receiver first pick. And I mean, I guess chicken out.
But last year, like we were all saying at the end of the season, like Cup's gonna go number 1, or no way he goes number 2, past number 2.
Yeah.
And then he gets drafted at 6th. And
well, and look at all the running backs that people grabbed, like coming back off of those wide receiver picks. Like you got Jones, who's looking really good, Swift, Saquon. And I mean, Javonte Williams, by all means, looks like he's just going to be an absolute stud. I mean, he didn't show it in fantasy, but when he touches the ball, it's magic.
He needs help.
That's just to wrap this up. I think that could be an interesting topic for next week as far as the wide receiver RB first round battle and everything. So we're just gonna see what happens with that for sure. So
yeah. All right, everybody.
We'll see. So Austin,
longer as always, but
yeah, Austin, thank you for joining. Good luck to you next week in the season we're on. Hopefully we'll get you back on at some point this year.
Someone stop by the Mad Scientist Lab and leave it there.
Yes. Austin he's going to give away Derrick and Jerry Jeudy, and I need an RB2. So somebody hit us up.
All right, everybody.
So good luck to everybody this week. Have fun. Be safe. We'll see y'all next week.